Hi, good morning. Morning to you. How are you doing? Hope you're good. I hope life is good, work is good, family is good. Welcome and happy weekend. Today we are here, and unfortunately we are not here to pray today. Today is not prayers. So tomorrow we'll be here for prayers and sharing the word. So today we are here to look at our health topics. We're going to be looking at why some people die in their sleep. It's a very tragic situation, and sometimes it can throw the family into confusion. There's a lot of confusion. They don't know exactly what happened and how the person died. They know that they saw them yesterday and they went to bed and they never woke up. And I pray in the name of Jesus that that will not be our portion in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. However, we need to know the reasons, and the reason we have to learn to know why some people go to bed and they don't wake up is something we need to learn and see how we can improve our own lifestyles. And if it's lifestyle related diseases and other things, then we can take precautions on how to deal with it. So that's what we are going to be looking at today. Please invite your friends. Help me to like this video, like the page, follow me. We are here to pray and also to raise awareness on health matters. And also please do help me to share this with your friends, and God will bless you. So we're about to start. Why people, or why some people, not people, because not everybody. So some people will go to bed and never wake up. It's a very tragic, it's tragic, it's painful, it's sudden that someone went to their bed and in the morning the person is not waking up. The person couldn't wake up. Then they found the person dead. So it's very confusing. It's very difficult to wrap your head around it, to be able to find out exactly what happened. So today, come with me. Let's look at some of the medical reasons that will lead to people going to bed, or some people going to bed and that will be the end of them and never wake up the following day. Reasons why I'm doing this, a lot of people have been asking this question, why people die in their sleep, why some people go to bed and they never wake up. And it's like the trend is increasing with some veteran Nollywood actors, and just some of them have died in their sleep, and a lot of questions on social media why someone go to bed and never wake up. So come with me, let's look at the reason why this has happened. So dying in your sleep, I just want to give credit to NHS England, NAS guidelines, and Very Well Health for some of the resources that I've taken from there, which has helped me to put this teachings together, and also thanks to me as well. Okay, so I just start by saying that dying in your sleep, also known as nocturnal death, meaning death at night, death while you're sleeping. Okay, so it's often associated with sudden cardiac arrest. So there's so many reasons. It's not only one reason. So number one reason of sudden death while sleeping. Number one reason of sudden death while sleeping is cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is number one of it. And also we have next one is congestive heart failure. We have arrhythmia. We have so many reasons, but the main emphasis is majority of it could be respiratory related problems, and it could also be cardiac related problems. So majority of the time, apart from human factor of strangulation and all of that, majority of people sleeping and don't wake up, they have underlying cardiac issues or undiagnosed cardiac problems or undiagnosed respiratory conditions. So that is one of the reasons, or those are the reasons. I'm going to expatiate on this cardiac and respiratory related conditions so we can learn about it and also see how we can help to improve our heart function, our cardiac functions, our respiratory functions as well. So, majority of time we call it nocturnal death, someone going to bed and dying in their sleep. So, lung failure, as said about respiratory, and end stage and terminal disease are reason people may die in their sleep. So, our next thing is terminal disease. I've already mentioned the reason is cardiac and also respiratory, excluding human factor. The next one is malignant disease. Malignant disease is a cancer, a terminal disease that someone might have suffered from it. Maybe they might have been undergoing treatment like chemotherapy, radiotherapy, or surgery, and they're still taking this treatment, and then the cancer is spreading all across their body, and sometimes the cancer also can spread to the lungs, can spread to the digestive organ, and when this happens, it can also lead to sudden death. So sudden death, some people dying in their sleep, is multifactorial. So I've said cardiac reason, which is like cardiac arrest, which I'm going to explain, or poor rhythm of the heart functioning. Your heart is not, the electric function of the heart compromised, or respiratory failure, or malignant or terminal disease can be another reason for somebody dying in their sleep. So let's progress. Also, another reason which is also related to either cardiac reason is when someone is having insufficient oxygen supply to their brain, that can lead to stroke. And also sometimes there are neurological issues as well, like seizures, someone having like epilepsy and they have what we call grand mal seizure, which is a seizure that's lasted for 30 minutes to hours and they're still having these seizure activities. Sometimes that could lead to death. And then we also will be looking at other reasons such as drug abuse or drug overdose. A lot of people have taken overdose medication in attempt to kill themselves. When they take overdose medication, like overdose paracetamol, which is what we see quite a lot in the hospital, young people taking overdose medication, or things like heroin, something like cocaine, or a lot of diazepam, and then they go to sleep and they die in their sleep. So drug overdose can also be one of the reasons people die in their sleep. Okay. And I've also mentioned about trauma, like if you have injury in your brain, like damage to your brain or accident, and then you have bleeding in your brain cells or bleeding into the meninges of your brain, that result in what we call infarct and brain death. Then it could also result in somebody dying in their sleep. So in the UK, I'm just going to look at the statistics. Follow me, let's look at the statistics. I'm sorry that I'm not able to share this for you to see. So 1 in 4 people die of heart disease in their sleep. 1 in 8 people die in their sleep. Can you believe that? 1 in 4 people die of heart disease. Remember, heart disease like cardiac arrest, heart attack, congestive heart failure, so many of them arrhythmias, so many heart diseases or cardiac related diseases or cardiac related deaths. 1 in 4 people. that are dying in the UK. The statistics in 2017 shows that those people that died, 1 out of 4 of them had underlying cardiac issue. And then 1 in 8 people do die in their sleep. So 1 out of 8 deaths recorded in 2017 in the UK were dying in their sleep, or death in their sleep, or nocturnal death. I want to repeat that. 1 in 4 died from a cardiac related issue. 1 in 8 of these people died in their sleep, while sleeping. So they just slide into death. May that not be a portion in Jesus' name. Amen. So patients with obstructive sleep apnea are more than 2.5 times likely to experience sudden death between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. That is from Cleveland Clinic 2017 research. That people with sleep apnea, I'm not sure if you know what sleep apnea is, where you have obstruction of your airways. Obstruction of your airways during your sleep that could cause also your heart to stop beating 1 or 2 minutes, and you're not breathing 1 or 2 minutes. So intermittently your heart stop beating 1 or 2 minutes, and also intermittently your airways collapsed within 1 or 2 minutes, and then you're back again. So that's called sleep apnea. Your heart stops beating 1 or 2 minutes and it restarts all over again, and also your airways become obstructed and you're not able to breathe. Sometimes we call it airways collapse for 1 or 2 minutes, and then you're back up again. Sometimes it could just be forever and the person cannot wake up again. But that not be a portion in Jesus' name. So a lot of patients have what we call obstructive sleep apnea, and if they have that condition, in addition to the cardiac issues I've mentioned, obstructive sleep apnea, we can link it into respiratory and cardiac issue as well. So they are 2.5 times more likely to die in their sleep. So that's the statistics. I will come back to that much later. So let's go and look at these issues that could lead to someone dying in their sleep. Number 1 is cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest. We have used this word over and over, and sometimes we misuse the word. So cardiac arrest, right, is when your heart suddenly stops beating. Your heart suddenly stops beating. Okay. Cardiac arrest is different from fainting and collapsing. So some people, because maybe they have not eaten, or maybe they haven't had enough drinks of water, or maybe they are anemic or something like that, and they just collapse, and you can just easily revive them, and that's different from cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest means that the heart suddenly stops beating. Without immediate medical treatment, sudden cardiac arrest within minutes can lead to death. And that is why everybody on the street needs to have, I say that, I'm not exaggerating, that everyone on the street should have the CPR skill, where you can give a CPR to someone that you see either they collapse suddenly on the street, or maybe they're sleeping next to you and you feel that the person is not breathing. You can start to do a CPR on them before you call, in fact, while someone else is calling the ambulance, you can do a CPR on them. CPR meaning that you are putting pressure on the heart to restart the electric conductivity of the heart so that the heart will start beating again. So that is very important. CPR, we all need to have that skill. It's very important. So sudden cardiac arrest, when the heart stops suddenly, the heart stop beating suddenly, and that can happen in split seconds to minutes. And if not rescued immediately, if there's no medical intervention like CPR that I've just said, the person can die. So the risk of this cardiac arrest, the risk of death is higher during sleep. The risk is higher during sleep because the emergency medical response is too late. Like now, if you call ambulance, maybe you're sleeping next to the person and you wake up and you call them, they are not responding, you check them, they are not responding, you call the ambulance. Before they come, the person have already died. They will pronounce the person death on arrival of the paramedics. The person is already gone. And that's why I reiterate that it's very important for every one of us to have that skill of CPR, that we can be able to rescue life. And secondly, if you sleep on your bed with someone next to you, whether husband or wife or partner, it's always good to keep an eye on each other. When you wake up and go to maybe go out or maybe to ease yourself, when you come back to bed, there's nothing wrong in checking if that person is still breathing. That is called sign of life. Check if they are still breathing. And if they're snoring quite a lot, give them a tap for them to change their position. Give them a tap for them to change their position. It helps with the snoring. And also you can just give them a little rub on their shoulder and also on their back. Also it can relieve their airways. Okay? And also give them a supportive pillow. Funny enough, I am on my bed. Okay, so you can give them a supportive pillow. Right. Something like this, right, is very good. So you can pull it under their shoulder at the back, and then that will help to keep their airways open. Okay, so you need to have these supportive pillows. They're very good in bed. Okay, all right. So I'm just gonna recap before I move on. I said number one reason people die in their sleep is cardiac arrest. And when that happens, the heart stops beating in 1 or 2 minutes. If nothing is done, if there's no intervention, the person can die straight away. They will not wake up. Number two, I said that cardiac arrest happens mostly in the night when the person is sleeping. And also, calling ambulance, it takes for a long time for the medical paramedic team to arrive. And sometime before they come, the person is already dead. And the fourth thing I said, you need to keep an eye on someone that's lying next to you, or even your children. You need to keep an eye on them as well. Always go and check if they are sleeping, check if they are breathing. There's nothing wrong in checking for signs of life, especially if that person has got a risk factor, which is type 2 diabetes and heart attack, high blood pressure and COPD or malignant condition. Keep an eye on them. So, of all the cases of people that died in their sleep, we call it nocturnal death. Death while sleeping and sudden cardiac arrest is among the most common. Death while sleeping or having cardiac arrest in their sleep while they are sleeping. They have cardiac arrest in their sleep is the most common cause of nocturnal death, which means sleeping or dying in your sleep. So while you're sleeping, while someone is sleeping, why some people die in their sleep is because they have cardiac arrest in their sleep May that not be a portion in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. So the risk of death is higher. It's really high during the night. So, and the time, about 22% of people have cardiac arrest between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. People with sleep apnea have cardiac arrest between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. So those are critical times. You need to keep an eye on them. All right, so let's move on from cardiac arrest. Let's look at another reason people have die in their sleep. Number 2 is heart attack. The heart attack. A lot of people will say cardiac arrest. I say cardiac arrest is when your heart suddenly stops beating. Heart attack is what we call MI. A lot of time you hear the doctor say somebody have got MI, or you hear someone say I have MI. MI or MI is myocardial infarction. And what does that mean? Myocardial infarction is when your blood vessel supplying your muscles, especially the muscle of the heart, which is a very important muscle that we have, right? So our heart is surrounded by muscles, okay? And these muscles, they need to be supplied with blood, and that blood, remember our blood has oxygen as a component, and we need enough blood and enough hemoglobin that binds the oxygen to circulate around the heart muscles. So in a myocardial infarction, when there is shortage of blood supply to your cardiac muscle, then the muscles start dying. It results in what we call infarct. Okay? So, myocardial infarction occurs when blood vessels supplying your heart muscle become obstructed and the tissue supplied is damaged or dies. That's what I'm talking about. So, if there's not enough blood that goes into, in fact, let's just give an example. If you put a pressure on this your particular, let's look at your finger here, put a pressure and keep it for so long, you get to a time that the blood supply is reduced in this aspect of your fingers. Or maybe it was a typical example is when you're opening your kitchen door and your fingers slide into it, and then you get that quick pinch, which is so painful. So lack of blood supply happens in split seconds. You see that area going sinus. And the same thing with people that don't have enough supply, to their brain or their anemic. You see their face, the color of their face changes. So blood supply is very important. And also checking your hemoglobin level is very important to be sure that you are not anemic as well. Because someone who is anemic do not have enough blood supply, and someone who have like obstruction, like emboli, can also experience myocardial infarction because there's an obstruction in the vessel that supplies the heart, So when there's obstruction in a particular blood vessel that supplies the heart, infarction will happen. Infarction is occlusion. Occlusion means a blockage of the blood vessels that supplies blood to your heart as a result of either pulmonary emboli or blood clot, or so many things could cause, or fat. There's what we call a fat. There's what we call atheroma, atheromatic plaques from the fat. They can break up and block the arteries that supplies your heart with blood. And once that happens, the blockage prevents blood supply to your heart, and that will result in the tissues of your heart dying off, and that is when somebody will have what we call rest troponin. And this does not only happen during the day, this can also happen during the night and when somebody is asleep. So myocardial infarction, right, causes obstruction in your in the supply of blood to your heart muscles and cause the tissue to damage and also the tissue to die. And I also said that myocardial infarction, it range from a minor event, which is just a slight compromise, which is um, just a little blockage, and then suddenly maybe the blood flows again, and that little plex or blockage or obstruction is removed, and then uh, um, the blood supply returns to the heart, which is what we call a minor event, a minor MI, a minor myocardial infarction, right? So that's just a minor, okay? Maybe just it's a primary myocardial infarction, so just a minor thing, a minor blockage, and that's later resolved. It can go from a minor to a severe catastrophic myocardial infarction. And when the severe myocardial infarction happens, it can result in a massive heart attack, right? It can result in a massive heart attack. So, because the blood supply to the part of your heart and also to your brain that controls the breathing and also respiration will stop. So I will repeat, the second cause of people dying in their sleep is heart attack. And the cause of heart attack is what we call myocardial infarction. And what we call myocardial infarction is obstruction of blood flow to the blood, obstruction of blood flow that supplies your heart and also your brain as well. And we said this obstruction could be as a result of emboli, it could be as a result of fat, it could be as a result of blood clots. Anything can cause obstruction, can cause a blockage, can cause occlusion of the blood vessel that supplies the heart. And when that happens, I told you that it can be just an acute myocardial infarction, which is a very minimal effect on the heart tissues. And it could just happen in split seconds to minutes, and then it wears off, which means that the blockage or the obstruction has been resolved, is resolved on its own. And it can range from that minor or acute myocardial infarction to a severe catastrophic myocardial infarction, which involve reduced blood supply to your heart tissue and also to your brain. And the area of your brain responsible for respiration and breathing will also be affected, and that's why the person can die in their sleep, because they can no longer breathe, because there's not enough blood supply that flows to their brain, and also there's reduced supply of blood to their heart, and then the heart tissue will start dying off. And that's why these people sleep and they don't wake up. I know people from Africa, which is one of them, we always like to attribute death to witches and wizards. Well, it's a chronic belief, but I'm just coming here to expound on some of the reasons that people can die and don't wake up, which is a trend in recent times. It's a trend in recent times because a lot of people have gone to bed and they don't wake up. So, a massive heart attack can reduce blood flow to that part of that brain that controls your breathing. And it could lead to respiratory arrest, cessation of breathing. The person cannot breathe, and that will be the end of it. Remember, breathing is a sign of life. When the breathing stops, the heart stops. Everything is gone. All right, so let's look at another reason for some people dying in their sleep. Next one is called arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is okay, how do I put this? Is a condition that affects electrical conductivity of the heart. So your heart, our hearts, function just like your electric supply to your television, to your fridge, to your AC, to your air conditioning. If you turn off electricity, or if you do not take a remote control to turn on the television, it's not going to work. You may have lights everywhere, but you got to turn it on for it to work. So in our heart works 24/7. You see the right side of the heart, the oxygenated blood travels, to the right side of the heart. You need to have your electric activity of the heart to be able to squeeze the blood from your atrium, right atrium, to the right ventricle, and then it will pass through there and go to the left side of the heart, and then it gets oxygen. It passes through there from your right side of the heart, and it goes straight to your lungs, where it gets oxygenated, and the oxygenated blood now comes to the left side of your heart, and it comes straight to your left side of the heart, and your heart comes in the activities, electrical activities, to help to squeeze that blood from your left ventricle for it to go down to the atrium, and for it to get into the outer, and for it to go into systemic circulation. So all these are electrical activities. We have what we call the AV node, we have the sinoarterial node, we have the bundle of East, and all of these nodes in our heart, they're connected to an important part of the heart, aortic valve. The AV node originated from aortic valve. We have the sinoarterial node. So all of these nodes are electrical conductive activities, and we have what we call the pacemaker of the heart. So for your heart to function, the pacemaker of the heart must function well, and it can only function through the electric conduction or conductivity. So when we talk about arrhythmia means the heart can also experience irregularities in the electrical system. So we have your heart rate. The way your heart, the way your heart beats, the rate of it is determined by the electrical activities that's going through your heart. So we have a regular heart rate, and we have a regular heart rhythm. So but when someone is having arrhythmia, then we now have what we call irregularities in the heart rhythm, irregularity in the heart rate, irregularity in the electrical conductivity of the heart. And that's why you hear a lot of people say, oh, I have atrial fibrillation, and then their heart rate is over 100. Sometimes they have 110 and 120. And when that happens, it affects the amount of blood. It also affects the cardiac output as well, because the heart is just pumping too fast and does not even give enough time for blood to be squeezed from the ventricle to the atrium and to get into the circulation. So sometimes somebody having atrial fibrillation and their blood pressure is very high at the same time, because the heart, it put a lot of strain on the heart. So the charge that is required to fire off the muscle in your heart is supposed to work in a synchronized version. Synchronized version. What I mean is that complementing each other. When the heart charge and the heart start beating, it has to be the atrium, the right side of the heart has to synchronize, the rhythm has to synchronize with the left side of the heart, so they have to complement each other. So it's very important. So when there is any disruption, right, in the heart electrical charge, it is going to cause a disruption of the firing of the muscle of the heart. Remember, it's the muscle of the heart, which just that small heart, that muscle that is responsible for squeezing out blood supply to your brains and every part of your systemic circulation. Is that same little muscle of your heart that needs blood to come back from your circulation to be deoxygenated, to be oxidized, to be able to be sent back to your circulation. So when electrical activities are impaired, then you find out that the squeezing of the heart, which is the contraction and retraction of the heart, is going to be affected. So I've said here that the contraction may become irregular. It can either be too fast, and the heart pumping effectiveness may be compromised. So either like in atrial fibrillation, it could be that the heart, the contraction is going too fast. It's going too fast. It's going too fast. Or the contraction could be synchronized, could go fast, stop on the right, and then start on the left. Everything is just out of proportion. So that could also cause a lot of problem with someone that is suffering this condition. So some of the things we have talked about, we talk with condition that relate to arrhythmia. We have like atrial fibrillation. We have atrial fibrillation. We have something like atrial flutter. We also have restrictive cardiac arrhythmia. We also have aortic stenosis. We also have mitral regurgitation. We also have heart block. Could be right heart block. It could be left. We have so many things. We can also have a shunt between either the right hand side of the heart, going shunting through, So it can also affect children as well. So all this electrical conductivity irregularities can result in a serious catastrophic massive heart failure and heart attack as well, and it can also lead to death. So, and one thing is, if someone has got arrhythmia and you do an ECG, you'll see how the electrical conductivity of the heart is. So when we talk about atrial fibrillation, we talk about there's no P wave, which means the atrium is not firing. It's not firing. So there's a lot of things in the ECG. And you find out that if someone has got this condition, okay, it can cause they can have frequent death in their sleep. And when you put an ECG plug on them, they have what we call asystole. So asystole rhythm, meaning that there's no rhythm, you just see straight lines. This ECG asystole rhythm, meaning they have died. They have a cardiac arrest rhythm, when the electrical activities of the heart cannot be dictated, so they have a cardiac arrest rhythm. Because the heart is not able to function properly, the rate is irregular, is not able to give enough time for blood supply to the heart muscles, and also the heart is not even firing properly. So it could cause a lot of problems. So similar could be ventricular rhythm, ventricular tachycardia, we have that, and also that can become fatal. We can also have cardiac block that I've said. It could be right heart block, it could be first degree, second degree block, different types of blockage. So there's quite a lot of things that can cause somebody to die in their sleep. You see what I'm talking about? So it's quite a lot of things, So it can lead to heart dysfunction. So when you have ventricular systole rhythm, and it can also have, like I said, atrial fibrillation, atrial flutter, ventricular tachycardia. You can also have right side of the heart being blocked or failing, and you can also have so many problems can be associated with electric conductivity of the heart and result in what we call arrhythmia. And arrhythmia can also be the reason some people die in their sleep. And the next one is congestive heart failure. So you can see so many things that I am talking about is related to the heart. So the Bible says that the heart is where the issues of life is. And that could be the psychological part of our heart, the mind. But this is our little heart here. It does quite a lot of things when it comes to keeping us alive. Our heart, our lungs, and our brain, they work together. The kidneys, all of them that God created, they work together. But the heart is the center. The center of life is the heart. And once the heart is compromised by any of the disease I've just mentioned, someone can sleep and don't wake up. The next cause of somebody sleeping and dying in their sleep is congestive heart failure. Congestive heart failure may also gradually lead to failure of the heart, right? In severe cases, cardiac arrest. We talk about congestive. So what should come to your mind? It should be that there's a lot of failure in the heart that lead to either underlying heart condition that resulted in accumulation of a lot of fluid in the heart. I don't know if you heard your doctor said you got a lot of fluid in your heart, and that will put pressure on the heart, and that could also affect the cardiac output and also blood supply to the heart. Also the pressure or the blood pressure as well. It can affect so many things. So for example, we have congestive heart failure. So it may gradually lead to failure of your heart. And it can also lead into severe cases of cardiac arrest. Because the heart is not able to function because of accumulation of so much fluid. So left-sided heart failure is the worst one, right? It will quickly impact on the right-hand side of the heart. Remember that blood that comes from the lungs goes to the left side of the heart, and that is the same side of the heart that had to pump out the blood into systemic circulation. So when you have congestive heart failure, there's a lot of fluid accumulation in your heart, and you have what we call cardiomegaly. Your heart is so enlarged because of this fluid. So it affects the cardiac output, the amount of blood that is pumped out into systemic circulation. And second, what that means is that because if no blood goes, if a small amount of blood is pumped into your systemic circulation, one, your cardiac muscles will start dying off because there's not enough blood supply to the cardiac muscle. And also your brain as well need a lot of blood. So if there's not enough of blood circulating, also affects the brain as well. And then that's going to result in ischemic heart disease, which is going to lead into stroke, which is going to lead to sudden death. And also because there'll be congestion, because if the right side of the heart that brings deoxygenated blood, there will be a backflow from the left side of the heart because the heart does not have any more energy to pump out blood because the blood, what is diluted to so much load in the heart because of water. So there will be a backflow, of blood back to the right side of the heart into the deoxygenated chambers. And when this happens, it results in what we call poor venous returns. and then you find out the person is swelling, their legs are swollen, and then their stomach swollen, and sometimes on the on their back of the um, sacral area also swollen. They're full of fluid. They are overloaded with fluid. So that's congestive heart failure. So I said here that left-sided heart failure impacts the right side of the heart. It leads to fluid accumulation in the lungs and swelling in the feet. So, and also legs and peripheral edema. I've already expanded on that. This can result in respiratory arrest because there's a lot of fluid. The heart is affected, the lungs are affected. So if the heart experiences volume overload, its ability to circulate blood ceases entirely. Because there's a lot of fluid in the lungs, also there's a lot of fluid in the heart as well. And everywhere is overloaded. Like I said, a person will have peripheral edema and they have poor venous return. And the weight of the water on the heart and circulation becomes increasingly impacting on the cardiac output, and then it will compromise respiration and will result in sudden death. So let me give some signs of congestive heart disease. So if you know someone that is experiencing any of this, their risk of dying in the sleep is high, and you can get them to see a doctor. Number one is shortness of breath at rest or minimal exertion. Like before, they used to walk. They can walk from their house to maybe to the shop without being breathless. Now, they're becoming so breathless that they can't even do a short distance even around their house. So that shortness of breath, you're having increased shortness of breath on exertion, like you're doing a little activities, maybe like washing clothes, maybe like cooking, or maybe moving around your house, and you're increasingly having shortness of breath. That shows that you're having what we call congestive heart failure. And this is one of the reasons people die in there. So thank you for the like. God bless you. So you need to check if there's someone like that. Or the next thing is that when they're at rest, they're sitting down and they're resting, and then they still having shortness of breath. They're not doing anything, but you see the way they are breathing. They are just supposed to be resting, but they're breathing so heavily. It shows that they're having a congestive heart failure, and that could lead to dying in their sleep. Number two, extreme fatigue. They are always very tired. Every point in time, they will tell you, I'm very tired. And even they are not even telling you they are tired. You look at them, you see that these people are very tired. They are very fatigued. They don't have energy. No matter what they eat, they cannot regain their energy. They're having what we call congestive heart failure. They need to see a doctor. And also, they're always having weakness. They will tell you they are very weak. Their hands, they cannot lift up their hands. When they lift up their hands, it feels very heavy. Their legs feel very heavy. Welcome, Michael. God bless you. Their legs feel very heavy. So they are always complaining of weakness. If you come across this kind of person, before they die in their sleep, take them to see a doctor. And then they complain of pains. The most of the pains they're going to complain us is they come to the hospital, they will tell you they're having chest pain. You have to ask them the kind of chest pain they are having. Some of them, they will have chest pain that is almost like the one I explained earlier on myocardial infarction. Chest pain, when they are at rest, they're having chest pain. Is a bad sign. They can die in their sleep. Chest pain is showing, the chest pain shows that there's a blockage in the arteries that supply the heart. And also there's a blockage in the artery that supplies the heart. And also if there's no blood supply to the heart, the tissue of the heart will start dying off. I already expounded earlier that when that happens, right, it can be an acute thing that they just have chest pain when they are walking, and when they stop, then the chest pain goes away. When they start walking again, then the chest pain start coming again. Then that they should look for a doctor at that time. They have that chest pain when they are walking, and they have chest pain when they are at rest. They need to see a doctor at that time. And it gets worse when the person is having chest pain at rest. They are resting and they are having chest pain, so it's getting worse. And they are always tired. And then they're always tired. And then they say they have body pains all over as well. Generalized body pains. Not responding to any painkillers. It's very dangerous. And some of them can also complain of pain either in one leg or both of them. So we have to watch out for this. And also persistent cough. Persistent cough. They are always coughing because of the fluid overload in their lungs. So when they have congestive heart failure, there's a lot of accumulation of fluid in the lungs that also put pressure on the heart. So they cough. It's a sign of it. And then depression and anxiety, when someone is very tired, a very shortness of breath, they are no longer walking, they cannot do what they used to do before, they get that frustration, they can get into depression, they can have constipation, they can also lose appetite. So watch out for these people that they have swollen legs. A lot of times, people will have swollen legs, and someone will tell you that I've always had swollen legs from when I was a child. Or someone will say that in my family we have swollen legs. I keep saying to people, gone are those days we keep talking about in my family we have this, we have that. You need to check it out. So anybody that you see that their stomach is swollen, and either their face looks so puffy or their legs are swollen and they're telling you I'm fine, tell them to get a doctor. They are having congestive heart disease. A lot of fluid in their lungs, a lot of fluid in their hearts, and they're having cardiomegaly, and their heart cannot pump properly. They will slip into death in their sleep. When they can die in their sleep. Like I gave you the statistics when I started. 1 in 8 of these people die in their sleep. And it's not witchcraft. It's not poison. Because their heart was not working properly. Alright, so let's look at another cause of death in the sleep. Another one is stroke. Stroke. So some people can have stroke, and it can happen when they are sleeping, which is very dangerous. It can happen when they are sleeping and they just die. So the heart may affect other systems that rely in the ability to circulate blood. I've said it, I started saying cardiac arrest, myocardial infarction, arrhythmia, congestive heart disease. All of these conditions that affect the heart will affect the brain. Because I've said, as little as our heart is, it is one of the most vital organs of our living. When our heart stops beating, we are dead. We are dead when the heart stops beating. The heart controls nearly all our functions. The brain is working because our heart is able to circulate blood to the brain. We are breathing because the part of our brain stem, the part of our brain that is responsible for our breathing, is having enough supply of blood. And when the blood supply to the brain stem and other parts of our brain stop, then the breathing will stop, and then somebody's going to die. So blood is life. When we talk about the Bible says blood is life, I'm explaining to you today how important blood can be. So our heart is the center that pumps the blood to every part of our body. Your hands, your legs, your kidney, your liver, your lungs, everything depends on the blood that pumps out from the heart. So that is why we always talk about eat healthy, do exercise and all of that, which is one thing that's very difficult for everybody. And the reason is to protect the heart. So if we can have our heart physically, we could nurture it, we could lock it up, we can protect it, but we can't because it is inside of us. And that's the factor that determines whether we stay alive or death, is our heart. As I'm talking now, if I do not have enough blood supply to my facial muscles, I can't talk because it will die off. So our heart is very, very important. And that's why a lot of people do not understand. When somebody dies in their sleep, they keep looking, they say, somebody poisoned. I'm trying to come up here to say that most of the deaths that happen when somebody is sleeping is because there's undiagnosed cardiac issues. Especially in Africa. Because we don't go to hospital. Even celebrities don't go to hospital. And we are eating very unhealthy. And it's affecting our hearts. So stroke will happen when the circulation from the heart is compromised. So you find out that somebody that's having stroke, the problem arises from the heart, and then inability of the heart to pump enough blood into the brain will result in stroke. Irregular heart rhythm may lead to clot that travels to the brain and causes stroke. I mentioned about heart rhythm. I mentioned about electric conductivity of the heart that controls our heart rhythm and also control the energy and the strength that the heart needs to pump out blood. So when somebody is having arrhythmia and they're having irregular heart rhythm, the heart will develop, the blood will develop clots because of irregularity in the heart rhythm, right? Blood clots can happen. And when that clot develops and that clot travels to the brain and lodge in the brain, it will cause what we call stroke. When the blood clot breaks up and travel in the circulation and reaches the brain, and the particular artery that supplies that part of the brain is blocked. And when that happens, blood cannot flow through that artery that supplies that part of the brain. Then the brain tissue will start dying off. And that is how stroke happens. That's how stroke happens. There's not enough blood supply to that part of the brain, and then stroke will happen. So, we also talked about, I talked about high blood pressure, and high blood pressure or hypertension increases the risk of the heart struggling to pump blood, and also increases the risk of clot. Because the pressure at which the heart pumps, right, against its vessels becomes so high. When we talk about high blood pressure, it's not the blood that is not because you have a lot of hemoglobin. We are talking about the pressure at which your heart pumps through the vessels. So, and the clot, if you have a blood clot in your blood vessels, it will make your heart to pump harder. And when somebody says they have hypertension, means that there's a blockage in your blood vessel. When there's a blockage in your blood vessel or in your artery, especially the coronary artery that supplies the heart have to take extra energy to pump blood to pass through that particular vessel. If that particular blood clot dislodges from that blood vessel and travels to your brain, and then block an artery in your brain and remains there, that's how oxygen is not going through there because it's blocked. Blood is not passing through that artery because it's blocked. So there's obstruction in circulation to that part of the brain, and the brain is deficient of oxygen, and that will result in what we call ischemia of the brain. And that brain starts dying off. That's how some people go into stroke. So high blood pressure is one of the dangerous things that could lead to stroke. A lot of people in Africa, they don't like taking blood pressure medication. And some of you have got what we call statin, a blood thinning medication. Statin, a blood thinning medication. Apixaban, blood thinning medication. Antiplatelet, they give to you so that if your blood forms any clot, when you take that tablet, it will dissolve the blood clot and your blood flows normal. Some of you don't take it. You tell me, you come to the hospital, you say to the doctor, I can drink herbs, I can drink this. I'm not against your herbs or anybody drinking herbs, but I do not know how that works. But I'm telling you that taking your high blood pressure medication, taking your hyperglycemic medication, hyperglycemia means that, hypercholesterolemia means that you have high cholesterol, meaning you have high cholesterol, which is the bad fat. And the high cholesterol is going to form what we call atherosclerotic plaque. Atherosclerotic plaque means the fat that is developed from yourself, from your food, your eating, and that fat will break up and get into the blood vessel. So it's not only blood clot from arrhythmia that can cause blockage of the artery. Your own fat developed from a lifestyle can form what we call atheroma, and the atheroma can get into the circulation and block the artery that supplies the heart, that supplies the brain, and that could result in cardiac arrest or stroke. And if that happens in the night that the person is sleeping and the fat clot break away and travel straight in the blood, gets to the brain, that's how the person gets into stroke while they are sleeping, and they die from there because there's not enough blood supply to that part of the brain, and also respiration will stop and they will die in their sleep. So some people are very fortunate that happened during the day. Then you find out that immediately their face the facial features change, they have their mouth drooping, their speech start changing, right? And they become having slurry speech, and you can see they're becoming pale. And then you see they have either right hand or both hands becoming weak. Then you can call ambulance, they bring them to hospital, we'll sort it out. By God's grace, some of them recover their full function, or some of them will not. But some of them have stroke, and they're still alive because someone was there to help them. But people that have stroke when they are sleeping, there's no option for them. There is no help for them. They die straight in their sleep. So that is one of the reasons people die in their sleep. So some people will say that, oh, that person died peacefully in their sleep. You do not know the battle the person has to battle, because they know they're good. They know they are dying, but they try to come out of that situation, but it's too late. And that's why I'm saying that you need to keep an eye on the person that sleeps next to you. Sometimes you see somebody struggling. They're struggling in their sleep. Maybe they're struggling with death. One slap like this on their back, bam, is enough to give them the shock they need for blood to go back into their circulation. But sometimes, when somebody is struggling, you just coil on your own area. By the time you wake up in the morning, the person has gone. But this person was sleeping with me. So how come this person just died? I saw him when I wake up 3 a.m. He was moving his body. He was struggling because his breathing, his respiratory organs were collapsing. His larynx or nasopharynx, all of them were collapsing. And he was breathing because his heart is about to stop beating, and he can feel it. And you try to open his mouth, and his mouth cannot open, and you can't hear him calling, and he's struggling with death. And maybe what he needed was just somebody to just give a hit and wake him up. Or maybe somebody to know that, look at him that he's not having enough blood supply and start a CPR to kick start the heart. So what I'm trying to say that we should be vigilant even while we are sleeping in the night. That's why when you wake up to go and use the loo, turn on the lights. When you come back, look at the person lying next to you. If the person is okay. We need to keep an eye on people. Some people die in hotel room. Not because somebody killed them or poisoned them. They just went in that hotel and then they die. Some elderly people die from excitement. They have cardiac arrest. Maybe they have one mistress. And after the activities, you know what I'm talking about? They just die. They die. Because they were so excited and then suddenly they have cardiac arrest and they die. And the mistress is sleeping and the man has died. So, all I'm trying to, the purpose of this video is to let you understand that it's not witchcraft. It's not poison. And most of them is not strangulation. That somebody will die in their sleep, they don't wake up. Sometimes it's because of our lifestyle, the way we eat. Somebody will eat fufu 12 midnight and a lot of food full of palm oil 12 midnight and go to sleep. Are you mad or something? I do apologize for using that word. Because eating pounded yam at 12 midnight, especially people that are saying that some of the actors, they say they are shooting movies. By 1 a.m. they finish. They have a massive fufu. And they eat it with some ogbono soup full of palm oil. And their stomach is packed up with that carbohydrate. How will you digest that food? You're not walking, you're not running, you're not doing anything. You just go and lie down in bed. You put a lot of pressure on your circulation. Put a lot of pressure on your heart. On your cardiac activities. So some of the things we do, we need to really check it. So it's not that when somebody dies in their sleep, we always say that some witches have killed someone. No, I don't agree with that. I'm not saying there's no witches. Don't get me wrong. But I don't totally agree with witches killing somebody in their sleep. So respiratory arrest happen. And I've said that sometimes it's because of when the cardiac activities are not working properly, it affects the respiration. So at basic level, the lungs are responsible for cardiac exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide, which we know that from primary school. You take in oxygen and then you expel carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is in your lungs. When people do not get that maximum function of expelling carbon dioxide in their blood, they become acidotic. They become hypoxic. Hypoxic, they do not have enough oxygen. They have more carbon dioxide. They have more carbon dioxide in their blood than oxygen. So the carbon dioxide levels start rising. And when that happens, it's very dangerous in the sense that it will affect the pH of the body. Our pH, we're supposed to be acidotic, neutral. But once you have so much carbon dioxide, you're retaining carbon dioxide. You're retaining carbon dioxide. Your pH is sliding down. From 7, it goes into 6, it goes into 5. Maybe you're sleeping, you're retaining so much oxygen, your pH rises and goes below to 2. You're becoming so acidotic and hypoxic, meaning that there's not enough blood, there's not enough oxygen, to circulate in your organs. So you're going to have respiratory arrest. And that is what killed a lot of people during COVID. Because they had a lot of carbon dioxide retention. Yes. And also people that have disease like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, they're also people that suffer this kind of situation, which is a very painful death. Cardiac respiratory arrest because of buildup of carbon dioxide in the blood, in the circulation. So when there is this imbalance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in our blood, respiratory arrest will occur. And this can occur in the morning, it can occur in the afternoon, it can occur even when they are sleeping. So, and respiratory arrest, I mentioned earlier, will put strain in your cardiac activity, put strain in the heart and the activity, and also respiratory arrest will result in cardiac arrest. So it's like two things happening at the same time. Respiratory arrest, somebody stop breathing because there's not enough blood supply going from the heart, right? And there's not enough oxygen. Remember, our blood has got oxygen as a component of our blood. So when you're having a respiratory arrest, you're making a lot of carbon dioxide, there's no oxygen entering your blood, then your blood is automatically deficient of oxygen. And then the tissues start dying off, especially the heart tissue, because you're not making enough oxygen. And then your blood is not oxygenated. So then your heart tissue start dying off, and the brain tissue start dying off. Other tissues start dying off. So once you have a respiratory arrest, you have cardiac arrest, and the person will die. If it happens when they are sleeping, that will be the end of it. So respiratory failure can occur in chronic conditions and degenerative conditions. And some of the examples of the condition that can cause respiratory arrest is COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is disease of smokers, most associated with smokers, like end stage of smokers disease. Unfortunately, non-smokers also have COPD as well. Maybe from inhaling secondhand smoke, they can also have COPD, or they can have other respiratory condition can result in COPD, but mostly COPD is related to a smoking disease. It's a end-stage smoking disease. And also cystic fibrosis, which is a genetic mutation. Genetic mutational disease in one of the genes, and that help people to expel mucus from their lungs. But these people, they have a mutation of their the gene that helps us to do that. So they have a lot of mucus in their lungs. They cannot cough out. So they cannot cough out a lot of mucus. So they retain a lot of oxygen, and they retain a lot of carbon dioxide. They retain a lot of mucus, so it can result in cardiac or respiratory arrest. Emphysema as well, and also lung cancer, pneumonia. A common thing like pneumonia as well can cause someone to be deficient of oxygen. And also pneumonia, remember, you're not able to breathe, and there's not enough oxygen in your blood that supplies also your lungs as well. And also the pneumocytes will start dying off. So it is very, very important for us to see a doctor when you feel that you're not able to breathe and you're having chest pain, or when you're breathing, you're having like you're having a sharp pain in your lungs when you're breathing, or you're having a cold. You need to check it out to rule out pneumonia, because it can also result in respiratory acidosis and respiratory arrest, and also can result in death while somebody's sleeping. Also, I already talked about pulmonary embolism, when you have an embolus or blood clot that can travel to any part of your circulation and block any of the arteries. Anyway it blocks, it can cause ischemia, can cause an infarct, say, in the brain, can result in stroke, it can result in brain death, and it can also result in dying in sleep. And also sleep apnea, I've already explained on that. So there's so many conditions that can cause somebody to die in their sleep, right? Other little conditions like carbon monoxide poisoning during a fire, or the kind of work somebody is doing, people that like to fry akara and all those things, and they keep absorbing carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, that comes from the wood and all that. Over some time, it can build up in their circulation, and it can also cause a lot of problems. It could cause respiratory arrest as well. And some medications, some people can take medication and go to bed, and that can also cause them to die in their sleep. Some of them can take medications like amphetamines, benzodiazepams, things like sleeping pills like volume 5 and all those things. And so, and then some of them can take cocaine and say, okay, let me just take a little cocaine. They take it and go to bed, and they don't wake up because cocaine has a lot of actions on your heart, and it can cause cardiac arrest as well. And some medication like opium and oxycodone, tramadol, all those kind of medication, they can also cause someone, if impact on someone's heart, and they can also cause death even while they are asleep, and also death while they are still alive. And also condition like epilepsy, someone can have a fit. Like when I started, I said there's different types of fit. The ones that can happen 1 or 2 minutes, and there's what we call grand mal seizure. That someone is having this seizure for epilepsy, taking for so long. They have seizures in hours, and there's nobody to help them. They can slide into unconsciousness, and then they die in the process. And choking as well. Someone can choke in their sleep. People that have sleep apnea, sometimes they can have obstruction, and they can get choked as well. And some people can eat food and overfeed themselves and go to bed, and the sphincter muscles of the stomach could just be weak, and then the food, the acid, from the stomach can just flow back. We call it regurgitation. They can have a regurgitation of food or acid that can come back to obstruct their airways, and they can also cause death. Some people can also have malignancy of the airways that can also cause sudden death in their sleep. So there's so many things, even trauma to the brain. There's so many things that can cause someone to die in their sleep. And that is all I have to say today. And I hope you have learned. And those of us that watch this video, I hope you've learned. And please help me to share this video and also invite other people to watch it. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Bye. Bye.